All right. David, you ready? I'm gonna let me share. Let me go home. You gonna share? You want to go ahead and do it?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Cool. All right. Here we go.
Welcome to Mental Speak. We're looking to balance self and society. You are locked into the award-winning Mental Speak radio show on the Fishbowl Radio Network.
I mean, when you look at this copying, you got to give us a little more than rhythm. You got to give us.
You got a lot of static again in your mic.
If you tell the history of slavery right, you got a big problem on your hands. The slave trader didn't take some savage out of Africa. He took a human being. He sold him like an animal and separated him from his family. America invented the cruelest slavery in the history of this. It broke up black families. After slavery was over, America kept breaking up the black man's family. And that's some awful history to teach. Now, if you want to look history right straight in the eye, you're going to get a black eye. Because it isn't important whether a few black heroes got lost or stolen or strayed in America's history textbooks. What's important is why they got left out. Now, this country has got a psychological history. There was a master race, there was a slave race. And though there isn't any political slavery anymore, those same old attitudes have hung around. I mean, the burning part of burn, baby, burn is right.
And welcome to the Mental Speak radio show. I'm your host, LaTanya Davison, sitting in with David Pierce from Pugilism and Politics.
Peace.
Welcome to Sunday. Welcome to the Mental Speak radio show. We are live every Sunday, 5 p.m. Central, FBRN.US, live from Globe Life Park in Arlington, Texas. We want to say thank you to everyone tuned in around the world today on a show that considered to be mission-oriented. This is a mission-oriented show. If this is your first time listening to the Mental Speak radio show, what do you need to know? We are about establishing truth. We are about ensuring that it is the foundation for everything that we do moving forward in this reality. Today, no less, we are going to be discussing the legacy of Dr. William H. Cosby. We all know him as Bill Cosby. We are joined today by his publicist and spokesman, Mr. Andrew Wyatt. Andrew, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me, LaToya and David. It's always an honor and pleasure to be on your show, no matter what day of the week, no matter what time.
Yes, no, we are so grateful for you. How we sounding? We clear?
You were going in and out. It was a little, the sound was going in and out, but now you're clear now. You're clear.
Good. I keep feeling, I'm telling
now,
you.
Now, once again, it's doing it again. So
doing it again. I'm like,
okay, now you're back clear. I think it's when you get closer to the mic.
Let me see what we can do. Let me see what we can do on my end. Where we at?
Now that's perfect.
There we go. Okay, I think we were peaking. That's what was going on.
Okay.
A little loud. Okay. And sometimes I'll be feeling like they just don't want us to get this information.
They don't. So let me know if I need to turn my volume down just a little bit so it doesn't have that distorted sound in it. But right now you're clear.
Yes, sir. So today, what we want to do, I titled the show, we are discussing the legacy of Bill Cosby. You've been on our show a few times. I want to make sure we're gonna let the listeners know what your mission is and how you took on this work. But what I want the listeners to know today is that we have determined from now forward, moving forward, we're just letting everybody know under the sound of our voices that the days of telling our history are over. The days of us being ignorant to our history are over. And so we want to ensure that everybody understands today we're going to tell things the way we understand it to be. I opened the show with a clip of Mr. Cosby, and the show was, I would say, life saving. Black history lost, stolen, and strayed.
Straight,
Lost,
straight.
stolen, or strayed.
Mhm.
And so we're going to get it back today. Andrew, what I'd first like you to do is explain to people who don't know who you are, your background, and how you took on this work, uh, pioneering and campaigning on the behalf of Mr. Cosby's legacy.
I love to look. I from a place called Bessemer, Alabama. Born and raised in Alabama, and grew up in the projects in Bessemer, 2613 Clarendon Avenue, a matter of fact. But how I came about this, I worked in the news business for ABC and Fox for 12 years. And working in the industry, they teach you when you get in the industry on how to either make someone look good or make someone look bad, ruin their reputation, all of those things. So, being in the business, I decided after 12 years, and my last station was Fox, I started my firm, a public relations crisis management firm, in 2007. And I worked with various people along the way, various celebrities along the way, from Robin Givens, Bernadette Stannis, who played on Good Times, Dominique Wilkins, a lot of corporations. And I represented the national SCLC, King's Organization, Southern Christian Leadership Conference. So, trying to restore people's legacy and keep those legacies together. And then I picked up Bill Cosby in 2010, and everything was going quite well. But in my line of work, what I do from colleges and universities that I represent, I have represented, when they get in certain issues, the media, mainstream media, when it comes to our stories and our institutions, uh, they always want to tell it differently. If a violent act happens on a HBCU campus, the story is told differently than the violent act that happens on a white campus. So what I would do for my alma mater, like Miles College and various, HBCUs that I worked with, when they had a shooting, I found unique ways, because those incidents do happen, to make sure it didn't make mainstream media. I'm a little unique compared to most publicists out here, the ones you see in Hollywood and New York. Majority of them have never worked in the industry. They either go start a PR firm, they pick up clients, their family members were in the industry and handed them opportunities down. I'm a little different. I worked in the news business. I can tell you how the in a morning meeting in the newsroom, how the news director would come and say, "Hey, it's this black political figure. Is this person? Let's find some dirt on this person. Have a camera following that person, an unmarked car following that person, finding out if they have a mistress and those type of things." So I saw how it worked. I know how the media operates when it comes to us. And what I wanted to do, I wanted to be in a business and start a business where I could help us when we get into certain situations. And fortunately, and God has blessed me to put me in that situation. We never knew this was going to happen. Something like this was going to happen to Bill Cosby. Look, we were minding, as he always said, we were minding our business. And then in 2014, fall of 2014, the sky starts falling with alleged accusations from women. And there was no playbook, there was no model, there was no resource that we could go to. It was trial and error. And this is not always, it looks and it is presented a certain way, Latoya, as if we have the answers and there's a strategy. There was no strategy. It was just hit and miss. And that's my goal, is to for what I do, is to take the bullets, but not only take the bullets, shoot back. And I'm in a different situation as a black person and a black man in America. We have a tendency of not having the resources and the voice to shoot back. And we have a tendency of not wanting to upset the other group on the other side, white people. Well, I'm a little different. I don't care. I don't care who I upset when it comes to us. When it comes to telling our story, when it comes to us as black people, I'm not fighting this just for Bill Cosby. This is way bigger than Bill Cosby. This is about every black man and colored man and black woman and colored woman in America who will face some form of injustice. I just worked on a case as a young kid out of Virginia, Matthew Rushing. 19 years old. He was 19 at the time. He's 22 now. And the mother has been fighting to get this young man out of prison. He was sentenced to 50 years in prison. What happened when he was 19, he got in the car to go get some pastries. He's autistic. He had a car accident because he had a seizure under the wheel. The car, he kept driving and severely injured and paralyzed an elderly white man. Because of that, he suffers from a part of autism called euchalalia, and he repeats. If you ever saw Rain Man, he repeats what you say. So the officer said, "Hey, are you? Did you try to kill yourself?" He said, "I tried to kill myself. I tried to kill myself." Look, they took this young man into custody. No medical treatment. Got him to commit and sign over, saying that I did it and I tried to kill myself and I tried to take the life of others. He didn't know any better. They sentenced this young man to 50 years in prison. Well, then they later come back and say, you know what? We're not going to give him 50 years. We're going to waive 40 years off of that. He will serve 10 or 40 years probation. I heard about the story. Some people got in touch with me just last month. Got in touch with me, a young lady named Karen Morrison. She's an advocate for victims. She's the one that helped get Corey Jacobs out, Diddy's friend. And she's not an attorney. She heard about me through a social media person, Kia Soto Wilson, who I brought in to handle all of our social media. And they said, well, can you help? We can't get any national stories done. I jumped in, donated my time, got them on CNN, the Washington Post. Beyonce mother got involved. Holly Robinson Peete got involved. You name it. A host of celebrities got involved. Well, because of the media exposure and the efforts putting pressure on the governor, this man now has a conditional pardon, and he's going to be released next year, March of next year. He's 22 years old. His health is deteriorating. He is an accomplished violinist, pianist. But I tell that story because he doesn't have the name and resources of a Bill Cosby. And that's why I say this is so much bigger than him, LaToya and David.
Yeah.
This is about us, okay? This is about who we are as a people. And if we can't save ourselves, nobody else is going to save us. Nobody's going to come to our aid. And it's not always about money. Yes, it's a great living, and I make a great living doing what I do. But as I always told Mr. Cosby, we talked about what you aired before the show, Lost, Stolen, or Strayed. We have to find our people. And when we find them, we just don't find them and say, hey, you've been found. We open up opportunities for them. We give them resources so they don't continue to be lost, stolen, or strayed. So they know who they are and they know their value. And that's why I'm in this business today.
And we're so grateful for you. We really are there. You're a champion on behalf, and that's why we've been blessed to have you sharing platforms with us so we can get that message out.
Right.
It's so ironic and synchronistic that yesterday, I want people to understand how easy it is for someone to put libel on you as a public figure. I ironically made a comment on a page for people with autism, people who fall on the autistic spectrum, and the conversation was basically about whether or not to use the high functioning, low functioning term for autistic people. Well, I work with autistic people daily. My son is on the spectrum.
Wow.
And I made a statement like anybody else would on social media. And I said, well, here's a reason that I may use the statement. And for whatever reason, a young lady decided that I was going to be in her focus yesterday. David witnessed it, and she proceeded to go to my comedy page. She went to the Mental Speak page, and she left reviews. She said that I was ableist, that I was what else did she say, David? You
Just a
you
whole
read
bunch of
it. It
ridiculousness.
was off the charts ridiculous. She's never met me. She doesn't know me, and she literally left what easily could tarnish someone
Correct.
that he's never met, and saying that I had harmed the autistic community. That's how simple it is for someone to just say, "You
Right.
hurt me."
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I am also an advocate why we partnered in this, in addition to the history that we've lived, that Mr. Cosby has shown us. So that's why we're here having this conversation today.
Well, look, and you
Yeah.
know, hey, I told that story about that young man, autistic, not knowing about your son being on the
Yep.
spectrum.
Yep.
And you know what I added to his situation was very small and minor, but it was interesting. The mother, I never told her who I was, and then she
Wow.
found out after they got the conditional pardon, and I had them on ABC News, Good Morning America. And she called me up and said, "I Googled you," and because I've never had a social media page, and by design.
Yep.
And she said, "I Googled you. I did not know it was you. I couldn't understand why we were getting all these network interviews, but you know, look, I can't take this with me. And what I have to do while I'm on this earth is help as many people that look like us. R. Kelly reached out to me. It was just a bad time when we talked, and his team and I talked. And it was a bad time where I could not come in, but you know, I gave him some of the best advice I could give at the time. And I said, "Hey, look, you got to always have someone out here telling your story. You know, when you're locked up, or you're in a position where you can't tell your story, you have to have an advocate out here reminding people of your legacy, reminding people of who you are." And that's what they did not want for Bill Cosby. They did not want someone reminding of who he is and who he has always been and what he wants for us as a people, how he has tried to use his celebrity to humanize all races, all genders, all faith-based groups and organizations, and especially people that look like you and I and David. And that's the message, and that's why I stay out here every day on the front lines, being that flat foot soldier, you know, general
And then
out here saying, "Hey, look, I'm not going to let this man go down. He's a great man." But not just because he's Bill Cosby, but because he's a black man. He did not ask for the halo to be put over his head called America's Dad. They put that halo over his head. And we have to be careful when allow them to put a halo over our head. You know, I watch them now put the halo over LeBron James' head, King James. Okay, now are they going to want their children to be calling you a king 20 years from now? Do they
yeah,
want their white children to be able to say, "Hey, oh, he's my king"? You know, how long would they let him have that halo of
yeah,
King James?
yeah.
We have to be cognizant of how they put the brand on us, because once they put the brand on us, they do have the ability to come take it back.
It's like the kiss of death. It's
Right?
and we're gonna talk about that before this is done.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna talk about the black male image
Mm-hmm.
as the representation of literally the physical Christ taking on the burdens and the sins of man, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
And we'll get there. Let's update. Let's update the family.
Mm-hmm.
Currently in appeals, but tell us how he's doing. Tell us how his morale is. Kind of bring us up to date.
Well, we were so fortunate and blessed to have the Pennsylvania State Supreme Court agree to review Mr. Cosby appeal. That's somewhat unheard of, because they only viewed less than 5% of the appeals that come across their docket. What gave us favor, the Pennsylvania State Supreme Court, under watchful eyes and tried to do it secretly, they held an oral arguments appeal for a murderer named Charles Hicks, a guy convicted murderer named Charles Hicks in Pennsylvania. Hicks was accused and convicted of murdering a woman in the Pocono Mountains. What they did, though, they brought in three women who had no similarities to the case of Charles Hicks and from Texas to say, oh, he beat me, he abused me, he used verbal abuse towards me in order to get the conviction. So these seven justices wrote five different opinions. And it was confusing. And it's called the 404B law, prior bad acts or prior uncharged acts. And basically, because of that, they saw Cosby's appeal out there, and they said, "Well, you know what? He was really tarnished by the 404B. Let's hear his appeal." And two of the issues that they agreed to review was the fact that if he had immunity, which he did have immunity because he was given a deal, he waived his Fifth Amendment rights, went to civil court, sat for a deposition for 4 days, never invoked the Fifth Amendment. And the former district attorney said that, look, Andrea Constant, a plaintiff who brought in the charges against him, she had five inconsistent statements from five different law enforcement agencies. There's no way I can convict him. So what was fortunate for us, oral arguments took place on Tuesday, December 1st, live on YouTube with the Pennsylvania State Supreme Court. And what they questioned the prosecution really hard on, why did you use the 404B? Why did you need five women? And how did that not prejudice Mr. Cosby? And of course it did, because these five women that they brought in, LaTanya, had nothing to do with Andrea Constant. Nothing. They had no similarities. The law specifically states you have to be similar. It has to be similar. The allegations have to be similar. Now, these prior bad acts, these women never made an accusation. It's a 20-year difference. So it's not within a 5-year period. Mr. Cosby, they wasn't out here being a serial rapist or drugging or raping women. It was nothing in relationship. But they brought in these five women to help corroborate Andrea Constant testimony, because they knew, if you remember in the first trial, we got a hung jury. Second trial, they brought in five. What we saw on Tuesday, December 1st, was these justices. I'm not calling them a win. I'm not saying we got to win, but we got to see what fair and balance looked like, because they really grilled the prosecution. And we hope and we pray that, when they write their opinion, that Mr. Cosby will be vindicated. And we feel really good about it. I'm not a meteorologist. However, it seemed that the winds were turning in Mr. Cosby's favor. And we hope they continue to turn in his favor. I can tell you right now, he is very hopeful, very pleased. And he has always said that the only place I'm going to probably get vindication is with the state Supreme Court or the United States Supreme Court. So his spirits are high. Spoke with him today. Right now, the issue that we're foreseeing is the fact that because of the rise of COVID again, it's a resurge in the prison. So he is under the same restrictions as those inmates who are on death row, 23 hours in a cell, eat in the cell. But he's able to get out for maybe 15 minutes to make a few phone calls to me or Mrs. Cosby. And sometimes, as of last week, the calls were 5-minute calls. Now they're back up to 10 to 15-minute calls. So he is doing very well. He's telling jokes. He's talking about history. He's talking about new projects that he wants to do and revive, various projects like Fat Albert and those type of things. So he's doing very well.
Say, I have a question. I seem to remember there was a production team that was headed up by male members of his family. Am I mistaken on that? Like there was a company that was going to be, producing films, and There were members of his family, either grandchildren or nephews or whatever, that was heading it up, or am I mistaken?
No, I think you were mistaken on that part. He had various family members, like his children, for example. One of his daughters, she's an artist and she's an art professor. She has her entire collection is on tour right now, artwork. That's Erica. You have Erin Cosby, who's a photographer. Her projects are out there, and you have Evan, who's a designer. She lives in California, but because of we had, before these allegations here, there was a new TV show coming out on NBC, where Diane Carroll was going to play his wife, the late Diane Carroll, and they were going to have one child left in the house, and that had got green lit by NBC and Sony, and that was ready to go. It was supposed to debut February 2015. He had put his art collection, him and Mrs. Cosby, at the Smithsonian on loan to the Smithsonian, and it was one of the largest African American art collections in the country that he owns in the world. So, but as far as like those type of projects, a production team, now we're not aware of that with the family members.
Okay,
I think
yeah,
he was talking about the Cosby Media Production, the
yeah.
entertainment company.
Yeah, well, they have an entertainment company, but it's in the name of Avery Ennis Production, and that's to
Okay,
give a shout out to his son Ennis, and Avery is one of the grandchildren.
okay, yeah. That's what. Okay, so yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
that's what I
It's
meant.
just he does everything under Avery Ennis.
Gotcha.
So and that's him and Mrs. Cosby's production company.
Okay, that's awesome. Could you explain or confirm that Andrea Constant, you said that he had immunity. That was because like you said, he sat under a deposition. He answered all the questions. Why was it reopened? What happened?
Well, here's exactly what happened. Bruce Castor, the former district attorney in 2005, he could not find any errors in Mr. Cosby's statements, but found errors in Andrea Constant's allegation to bring forth charges. Look, Mr. Cosby, no warrant was ever issued for his arrest. He opened up his home to the detectives to come and search his home. They refused and declined. He even met with the detectives in his lawyer's office in New York City for 6 hours. He brought over all of the herbs that he takes and the Benadryl that he gave her. They said, look, we have nothing here. We're not going to bring charges. The district attorney, Bruce Castor, he decided to write a press release and send it out, fax it out to all media saying that I'm not bringing charges, but he is going to, since I'm not bringing charges, the case is null and void. It's not going to happen. Once that press release went out, 19 days later, Andrea Constant files a civil suit with her attorney, Dolores Troiani. And Mr. Cosby, the district attorney, said, you know what? I'm going to make him sit for this civil deposition. And in order for me to let him sit for this deposition, I'm going to waive all charges, and he's going to waive his Fifth Amendment rights. He sat for the deposition for 4 days, not invoking the Fifth Amendment rights. They came to a settlement. He settled out of court with her for $3.8 million. Case is gone, never to be brought back. It was sealed in federal court by Judge Rubino. Case is sealed. Well, when the height of the allegation started in fall of 2014, and Gloria already started parading women out, the new district attorney, Kevin Steele, decides, I'm going to run, but I'm going to use a Willie Horton style campaign ad saying, if you elect me, I will go after Bill Cosby and convict him. And he opened up the case saying that no district attorney in Montgomery County can offer anyone a deal. And we know that to be a lie. District attorneys offer deals all the time. Mr. Cosby was having an affair with this young lady. She wasn't a basketball player at Temple, as people want to believe. She played basketball for the University of Arizona. She was an employee at Temple who worked in the athletics department with Don Staley. And she was just an employee. She was at a dinner function, was introduced to Mr. Cosby, and things happen. She came to his house of her free will. She would come through the back door, have dinner at his house, all types of things. She would travel to his shows. When he would go to Canada,
Yeah, I
he would
heard.
have dinner with her. So, there was a relationship going on.
Yeah, I heard about that. I wanted to touch on that. I heard one story, and I think this was on the Cole's View, where she traveled to Canada with her family, like, and kind of was like kind of showed up unannounced, and um, he didn't see them at that time, or something to that
No,
effect.
you're correct. That's what started everything.
Hmm.
She showed up. She wanted to come backstage with her mother. Her mother had brought him some gifts, and
Right,
he declined to see them.
right.
And when he declined to see them, keep in mind her brother-in-law, Andrea Constance's brother-in-law, he's a detective, a police officer in Canada.
Hmm.
Then she went to him a year later. Now, a year later, she goes to the family and says, I'm being depressed, and the reason why I've been depressed is because Bill Cosby sexual assaulted me. And it was all because he cut her off. He cut her off.
And didn't she tell like a close friend of hers that she could make this sort of allegation um, while watching a news program concerning this issue, and the woman wasn't allowed to like testify, or
Margot
am I-
Jackson. Margot Jackson. She was one
Margaret?
of our star witnesses. Margot Jackson worked in the athletic department with Temple at Temple University with Andrea Constant. They were on the road with I think playing Rutgers girls basketball team. And in
Mhm.
a hotel room at that time, you might remember, not remember, it was a guy on the run. He was the heir to Max Factor, the makeup company. Andrew Luster was his
Mhm.
name. And Andrew Luster was on the run, and he fled to Mexico. If you remember the story, Dog the bounty hunter went over to Mexico and got him and brought him over, and Dog got
Mhm.
in trouble. If you remember that story. Well, when Andrea Constance saw that on ABC, it was on the news, nightly news on ABC, she said to Margot Jackson, a black woman, that happened to me with a very famous person. Margot said, look, you need to go to the authorities and tell someone. She said, oh, I was just joking. Nothing happened. And they barred Margot Jackson from testifying during the first trial. And we had to file all types of motions. And the judge did not want her to testify during the second trial. We finally got her on the witness stand. But she's a black woman, Philadelphia. She has worked at Temple University she was working there at the time, for 35 years, had been there. She's also a counselor at a women's facility. Now, Margot, because of her coming out on behalf of Bill Cosby, Temple University harassed her, and then they terminated her, from my understanding, last year
Mhm.
after
Man,
being there 30 plus years.
man, that is so crazy.
Mhm.
And and I think, there's so many moving parts to all of this in terms of the legal aspect of what he's dealing with, and then, those of us who are above all else, the goal is to protect a legacy of a person who, on his own terms, by any means necessary, including the cost of telling us the truth about our history and what was hidden from us. And
Mhm.
not only that, but then taking it upon himself to create images to restore what was stolen, what was hidden.
Right.
And so I just want to reiterate to those, if anyone's tuning in now, we're starting to see the tide turn where people are starting to understand the possibility of why this man was hemmed up, right? And because
Right.
the seeds of knowledge that he was planting were so dangerous.
Right.
How dangerous were they?
Look, anytime you tell white people that I'm going to tell my own story and own the rights to my works, you become a problem. You become very dangerous. Mr. Cosby was treading on a lot of dangerous waters out here, because, and granted, he was not afraid. He was not afraid. Mrs. Cosby wasn't afraid, but he made it very clear to NBC. Look, this is a man who went to NBC in the 60s and told them, I don't see any black people as hairstylists in Hollywood or wardrobe stylists in Hollywood. He made NBC put up $1 million. He put up $1 million. He educated these people, got them certified so black people could be hairstylists and wardrobe stylists in Hollywood. So they could be a part of a union. He paid their union fees. This is a man who saw in I Spy a white man flip a car. He turned to the director and said, "Look, I got some guys in North Philly who could do that for $50. They'll flip a car and steal the car and flip it back over." And he watched them paint a white man down. And he started, because of that, he helped start the Black Stuntmans Association. Look, this is a man who has consistently tried to empower us. He saw the drug infestation looming and just like a raging fire when he went back home after leaving, going to Hollywood. And he said, "I have to do something." So he created images to make us proud of who we are and what we are and the strength of us as a people, from Fat Albert to the Brown Hornet to Little Bill to the Cosby Show to Chet Kincaid, where he played a coach in the Cosby Show, in the 60s, 70s show, A Different World. All of these images from the art collection that they have is to empower and educate and enlighten Black people of our strength and who we are today, and how we should start our own businesses and become entrepreneurs and not work for someone. Some people might not have the institutional knowledge or the desire to work for themselves, but having that strength. He never said to every person in America, "Oh, you got to get an education." He said for some people there's college, for others there's vocational training, becoming a heat and the air person or a plumber, those type of things. But anything to empower us as a people and empower our women. You look at women, and you look at how they paraded women out against Mr. Cosby. But this is a guy who used his celebrity in every fiber of him to empower Black women, from Felicia Rashad to, all of Debbie Allen, all of these Black women that he wanted to, Sonia Sanchez, all of these Black women that he wanted, Hispanic women, to be great. He used his celebrity to do those things.
Yeah.
I remember one of the things that stood out when I saw the irony of them trying to paint him as, this misogynist woman hater. And I remember the Cosby Show. I pretty much seen every episode.
Mm-hmm.
I remember the character Claire Huxtable started out as a housewife, and then the second season or so, they rewrote the whole show to make her an attorney and a more of a equal have more of an equal role in the household. And I'm like, a misogynist wouldn't do that. Someone who has a hate for women wouldn't do something like that. And I just feel like, at the end of the day, and we saw this we saw some of this with Ice Cube, like Black people,
Right.
we seem to forget, or we're so vested in getting good white folk to like us that we'll let them tell us lies about folk who work in our very best interest. You saw this with Cube in this past election cycle.
Right.
He came out and tried to get tangibles and tried to, he did the right thing. There ain't no question about it. Dr. Claude Anderson, Powernomics, that's what you saw with what Cube was doing. And our white frenemies, allies, told us that he was, out of line, and then the gatekeeper started throwing him under the bus, and it was just a mess. Now you see these same people crying about, Biden chastising civil rights leaders like they little ass kids, and it's like, what did you expect to happen? So could you speak to, like, us as a people being so willing to accept what the media and our historical enemies say of our leaders?
I tell everybody every day, the very reason why I don't have a social media page is because social media was created by white folks to take black people away from current events of the day. It's an opportunity where we get on social media and we use it as a tool not to communicate in an effective manner and uplift, but as a tool to hate and hate each other. And that's what mainstream media is. It's just a new form of social media. But they're using us as what? A tool to hate each other. And and until we open our eyes, I'm glad you touched on Ice Cube, David, and you look at Biden and Kamala Harris, they'll put more black men in prison for minor offenses than anybody who has sat in that seat in the White House. Anyone. And what Cube was trying to do was say, hey, I have a contract for Black America. They would never sign a contract for Black America. If you look at Kamala Harris, she ran on the platform. This will be the first Black woman. She doesn't even mention Black woman anymore. She mentions every other nationality that she's associated with than a Black woman. You have to read between the lines of things. Let's go back to early in the year. Nick Cannon, Deshaun Jackson all got up talking about, hey, I'm a Hebrew Israelite. When they see that your eyes are open, is open, what did they do with Nick? They treated him like Samuel the slave, tied him to a tree and whipped him and took his shoes off the air and made him go sit down with a Holocaust survivor to say, you can't call yourself an Israelite or a Hebrew Israelite. Well, didn't God deliver us from bondage, which is Egypt? We are Israelites. That's our strength. If we pick up that Torah and we read the Torah and we read the law, statutes, and commandments of God, he said we're the chosen people. Now we are on a strange land, but see, the Jewish people don't want you to be able to say that, because why? That's where our true history lies, correct? So when you're starting to understand your strength and understanding who you are, and when you have white folks who have given you shows that you don't own the right to, when you get to just catch a football and that's all you will ever be to them as a person, just, a no-bro just running down the field catching a football, I can silence you at any time. And look what they did to Deshaun Jackson with the Eagles, silence him. Well, see, Bill Cosby was different. He said, hey, come after me. I have my own wealth. I have my own resources. And look at Cube now. Cube, you don't hear from Cube anymore because they use of us as pawns. Look what they use Eddie Murphy. I wrote the statement calling him a Hollywood slave, and I stand by it, because you went on Saturday Night Live the first time, and Norm Macdonald wrote a skit for you to berate Mr. Cosby. You said, you know what? I'm not going to hit a man when he's down. What changed? You know what changed? Netflix had $1 billion on their Saturday night stage. And out of all those people, only one person who had a show, a comedian who did not bash Cosby, and that's Kevin Hart. Kevin is the only one. Dave Chappelle did it. Now, Dave, you want to complain about, hey, Netflix now and your contract and what they're trying to do to you. Look, you drank the Kool-Aid. You went and bashed the icon. Look, Chris Rock did it. Eddie Murphy now has done it. And that's what they do when they have a new project coming out. They tell Black comedians, hey, you got to bash Cosby. Yep. You can't win on your own merits. You mean to tell me your celebrity is not big enough? Your platform is not big enough? But that's what white people do to us. Mm-hmm. And until we, as a people, realize who and what we are and what God created in us, we're never going to succeed, because we don't know how to come together and be together. We don't know how to come and do a mental speak radio show like the Dave Chappelle's of the world. Yeah. Because when they get in trouble, trust me, they will come to mental speak. Yeah. When they get in trouble and their platform is tainted, they will come. Trust me. They always come back. They always come back running to us. They don't go to Black Press USA. They don't go to syndicated Black radio shows anymore. They run to mainstream media, but they come to us when they get in trouble. And what Cube showed us, he said, look, don't drink the Kool-Aid. That's what he showed us. And he was showing us because Biden and Kamala, he reached out to them first and they would not meet with him. Trump met with him. And hey, granted, I don't agree with Trump and I'm not a supporter. I tell everybody, when it came to voting this year, I went in the voting booth and I voted for myself as president. So I wrote my own, right? So we have to, as a people, the strength that we have. We're so great. Everything we touch. There was a song say everything. I got the Midas touch. Everything I touch turns to gold. Everything we touch turns to gold because we're great. We got that greatness inside of us. That's what God created us. How He created us. He created the Moses in all of us, the Abraham, Isaac, and Jacobs in all of us. But once we realize who and what we are, we can sustain ourselves for generations on top of generations.
He's teaching right now.
Indeed. Andrew, we didn't know you was gonna come on preaching,
Right,
brother.
come on here and do that. We welcome that.
Hey,
the minister had a
this is a side of me. I tell everybody that.
Let me ask a question. Do you have time to spend with us in the second hour?
I got time wherever you want.
Come on, let's do it. We're gonna pay our bills.
Go ahead.
We are going to come back. Andrew Wyatt is in the house preaching tonight. That's Wyatt in the house. This is the Mental Speak radio show on the Fishbowl Radio Network, FBRN.US, the world-renowned Fishbowl Radio Network. We are worldwide, and we are an independent platform. I say it again, independent platform. And we are an independent radio show. And our goal, again, is dispersing truth around this globe and around this planet so that we can take action. We're not just talking. We want to take action. We're discussing the legacy of Bill Cosby today with his publicist and spokesperson, Mr. Andrew Wyatt. I'm sitting in with Mr. David Pierce from Pugilism and Politics. We are not done. We got a whole hour.
It's your boy. He's elite.
Thankfully, Andrew's going to sit in with us, and we will be right back. What I need you to do is tell a friend to tell a friend. They can go to FBRN.US. They can listen live on their technological device, or you can join us on Facebook Live. I just went live on Instagram. You can join us at Mental Speak Radio as well. Do tune in. We'll be back. See you on the other side.
Check this out. You finna tune in to the Trill Like Me show.
Man, you, brother.
I'm sorry. Hey, I apologize. I get a
What matter of fact, I didn't know that we were going to take it to that level because that's all we talk about all day. And literally,
I wish everybody would take it to that level. Okay. And that's look, we've been gifted. And
yes,
when God has when we've been provided with a microphone and 2 chairs, we have to use it.
And no fear. And then the biggest thing is the no fear aspect.
No fear. Mm-hmm.
I've kind of had to take on that mantle. There was a part of me where I would, I'd be thinking about all the things that we've seen. You start speaking the truth and you got to watch your back and worry about your family and all that. I said, you know what? I'm ex-military. I went in the Navy for 14 years. I said,
oh, wow. I didn't know that. Wow.
I was like, man, I'd already sacrificed myself. So at this point, it's truth from here on out. So whatever that costs, there's no fear. I have people say to me like, "Oh, Latanya, I can't believe you said that." Well, who's gonna tell it?
Latanya, if you don't tell it, shame on you, because you don't know if that's going to be your last time at that microphone.
Exactly.
So we have to get it out and tell it, and then hopefully, if it is our last time, somebody hears and then they pick up the torch and they carry it for us.
Exactly. So let's continue that discussion. Like I said, what I want to do is highlight, we've been talking about that physical representation or in the flesh of that Christ figure. So we have this father figure, like you said, that they crowned America's dad, and he becomes the one that has to carry the burdens of all the sins of Black men, right? He's the one that they take out to the public post, and he's the whipping boy. Y'all see what we did, right? don't go there. So,
And they used our people to do it. They used us.
yeah. And of course, and we're the Judas, right?
That's it. They used us, and that's how they have always used us, because we turn on our own people, and that's how they use us on social media. That's how mainstream media uses us. When you go into these networks, you don't see people that look like us in those networks, unfortunately.
Say, I gotta. Can you hear me?
I can't. Yes.
Say, I remember I was watching the Roland Martin show, and I saw the attorney that was first representing Mr. Cosby. I can't recall her name.
Monique Presley.
Monique Presley. She said something interesting. She said, and I saw her representing. Seemed like she was representing him very well initially, and then next thing I know, she's not there anymore. But she said something. She said that whenever other people get have some trouble, that they have like a safety net. Their community is their safety net, and it keeps them from being railroaded. And that she said that doesn't exist for black people.
No, it will never exist for us.
White women,
they have torn down our communities. They have distorted who we are, and the problem with us, we want to sit at their dinner tables. We want to be welcome to their homes, and we feel like if we get out here and say something against them, that we're no longer a part of the country club, and that's the issue. But see, their country club never changes. It never changes.
Yep. Andrew, listen to this real quick.
Somehow, white women swung their Gucci booted feet over the fence of oppression and stuck themselves at the front of the line. I don't know how they did it. I've never heard so much complaining in my life from white women. My life is so hard with my SUV and my heated seats. You have no idea what it's like to be me. Trash and white guys. The nerve. Where's the camera? The nerve of you white women. Listen, I don't want to speak ill of my bitches here, okay? I don't. But let's go back in history here, okay? You guys stood by us toxic white males through centuries of our crimes against humanity. You rolled around in the blood money, and occasionally when you wanted to sneak off and hook up with a black dude, if you got caught, you said it wasn't consensual. Yeah, that's what you did. That's what you did. So why don't you shut up, sit down next to me, and
Welcome to Mental Speak. Mental and emotional balance. You are now locked into the Mental Speak radio show on the Fishbowl Radio Network.
You are locked in. This is the Mental Speak Radio Show. This is your host, Latanya Davison. We're coming at you live from the Entertainment District, Arlington, Texas, and Globe Life Park, FBRN.US. Or you're watching us on Facebook Live. We do welcome you. I got Mr. David Pierce sitting in, Pugilism and Politics.
Peace.
We want to say shout out to the Urban Intellectuals, our great sponsor for this platform. Shout out to all of you. Shout out to everybody tuned in down the line on the podcast and you're listening. We wanted to bring together a show as we do every week where we're combining history in historical accuracy, the legacy of the Black community and the direction that we're headed in. We hold these discussions every Sunday. Coronavirus has kind of opened up our eyes. It's forced us to have to sit down a little bit. We've had to look at our health. We've had to take inventory of our spiritual, mental, emotional status, our physical status. And, we've kind of had to measure where we are. And we found out we got a lot of work to do. A lot of us found out that we did not have accurate history. Many of you are home with your kids. You're finding out that your children, because you're seeing it day to day while they're online schooling. I know my son's history teacher emails me every week, and he tells me how they ended the week discussing something going on with Rome or Greece.
Mhm.
Not one time do they discuss African history, and he's in the 10th grade.
Wow.
I never see information on African history for a Black child.
Mhm.
Come on.
hmm
Come on.
It's that distortion. You know, they have used the education system. Look, this is a abolitionist system that we're in, and the abolition is they only tell you what they want you to hear about how white people came and aided black people in
Mm.
some form, and that's the extent of our history that we're going to get in the school system, and it's taught by abolitionists. And so they're going to talk about who they are. Rome, Greece. They give us these Greek gods. They give us all of these things that doesn't prepare us for anything of what the world looks like, because they don't want you to know what the world looks like and how the world truly feel about you. So, you know, unfortunately, we have a pandemic. That's unfortunate. But the fortunate part about it is that as parents, I don't have any young children. My only child is my daughter. She's 25. I just became a granddad, so 2 months ago. So, but other than that, you know, always taught her about us and who we are. And I think now this is a time, since we do have time because of a pandemic, you know, things are shut down, is to teach our children about who they are and what they are. And you know, go start it, you know, hey, look, the best history book I tell everybody is the Old Testament. Go through that, show them who they are and what they are, and the promises that were made to us as a people. And if we hold on to those things, we can have that greatness in our lives. Because of this pandemic, you know, and your show, you know, people were able to go in on YouTube and watch oral arguments where mainstream media left out facts, and say that during the trial they wouldn't promote, that they wouldn't produce the facts of saying that Mr. Cosby, why he did not say he drugged and raped women in his deposition. They gave us excerpts to say that he did it. But now, because of COVID, you know, we were able to see things live, and it was the most attended oral arguments in the history of Pennsylvania State Supreme Court being watched live on YouTube. So this is a time now where we have to hold our systems accountable to, because you can now. You have access to the teachers now. Normally, you had to send an email. Now, because of Zoom and all the technology, and you could go straight to that computer and say, stop, hold up, stop. I want my son or daughter to stop the lesson right now. I don't like what you're teaching them. And you have the ability to confront the teacher right then and there. It's an immediate confrontation of saying, no, I want to see my child being taught about themselves and who they are. Can we make that happen? If they don't, you can homeschool. It's out here now. The opportunities are vast.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Exactly. Let's talk about, let's go back to this. A lot of people aren't aware of the Black History Lost, Stolen, or Strayed
Mhm.
documentary. This was in 1968, aired on CBS, if I'm not
Yes, it was
mistaken.
aired on CBS, and
Yeah.
Mr. Cosby, his reasoning behind it is because he saw so much of our history being portrayed in a negative way, and the facts were not there. And he became upset, and he went to CBS and said, "Hey, I'm going to produce this, and I want you to get behind it." And because of who he is, they got behind it. And it's a great piece. He has another piece out here that he produced in his 60s and 70s that you got to share with your audience, called Prejudice. And Prejudice, he sits in a room smoking a cigar, and he calls out every nationality that exists to man, and he tells you why they're racist.
I've seen
So it's
that.
a great piece. It's a
I've
great
seen,
piece.
I've seen them, and I when I found that the Black History lost, stolen, or strayed. The first thing I did, after I watched, because I didn't even know it was him initially. I saw
Mhm.
clips, and so then I went and I did research on it, and I found a full the full documentary, and it starts out with him standing there speaking, and I'm like, wow, I knew how solid he was for us as a people. I didn't know that it was that level. It was to that level, and so I really appreciated when I saw it, and I shared it to the Urban Intellectual family, and every other a group and page that I'm affiliated with, and that's real important because it sets the tone for you to understand who this man is and what and why he's done what he's done, and quite possibly and quite likely why he's been attacked the way he's been attacked. And so I think that our effort here is to show, hey, look, no one's perfect. This man is we could say he's a net benefit, a net good, but the net that's not even a fair description, because it's off the charts as far as the benefit that he's been for us. And then you watch white folk, they go to bat for people like Dylan Roof. They know this man killed
Right.
9 people, and they raise millions of dollars. They know these people, and these are the lowest of the low of them. They don't throw away the lowest of their low, but black people be so willing to throw away the best amongst us. And so that that whole thing is ending. And I love that you brought up and went into a little bit of the history / prophecy. People, they get turned off by religion, but most folk don't really understand that these are common themes throughout history, and they're put there so that you could see them, understand them, study them, and so that you could see yourself in it. And every time I study these prophecies, I see nothing but us in it. And there's no, to me, America is under judgment, period. You can't sway me from thinking that. And look, we have, unfortunately, a Pearl Harbor, a 9/11 level deaths every day in America now. Every day, just from this pandemic alone. It's almost like the chickens have come home to roost.
Oh, they have, and and that's what Malcolm X said: the chickens will come home to roost. And you hit the nail on the head. Look, that was early this summer. I got into a debate with a friend who lives in Philly, and she said to me, I said something. I said, "Well, I don't judge," and she said, "That's a lie." She said, "How could you say you don't judge when God judges? We all judge each other. Judging is a part of." She said, "Now you can say that I try not to be overly critical of people, but we do judge." And so, America has shown us how they judge us as a people. And what Mr. Cosby has consistently tried to do was to be a harsh judge of us as a people. Now, I know a lot of the people in the rap community became upset with him because of the pound cake speech and where he was trying to tell people on how to empower yourself and better yourself and pull your pants up. Even though he can't see and he's blind, was an interesting thing happened to him over the summer in prison. And behind the walls, those guys, man, they dress nice. They wear some of the nicest stuff. They wear Jordans, all kinds of stuff. So Mr. Cosby was on the yard, and this young guy walks up to him who was given, I think, 15, 20 years. And he said, "Man, you Bill Cosby. You need to be wearing some J's. You need to be wearing this. And you got a stain on your clothing." He said, let me ask you a question. He said, "That's a dumb ass statement you just made." Now he's in prison. He can't see, he's blind, he's on the yard. Anything. He said, "That's a dumb ass statement." And the guy looked at him. He said, "Let me say something." He said, "I guarantee you, your family is having a hard time putting money on your books. I guarantee you, somebody's having a hard time right now taking care of your children. I guarantee you something, you left a lot of debt behind because you're in here. And you're concerned about wearing J's in the latest fashion." He said, "Look, man, we're in here to do a time, but while we do the time, we have to educate each other." Do you know that guy came back to him 15 minutes later and said, "You know what, Mr. Cosby, you were right, and I apologize"? He said, "Man, we're not here to be on a fashion show. We're not here to be a part of a fashion show." And those are the things that he's doing on the inside. And what he said to me, he said, Andrew, I know Mrs. Cosby doesn't like for me to say this. He said, but I always wanted to be a teacher. That was his dream, to be a teacher. He always wanted to teach in a school. He wanted to be a coach, a physical ed teacher. That was his dream. And so he said, now I'm getting to live out my dream and I get to teach.
Yeah.
And one thing he tried to do, he wanted to take Braille because he's blind. And the prison wouldn't allow him because he said, I'm trying to tell these guys to go get an education and to educate themselves. I need them seeing me trying to educate myself on how to do Braille. And, you know, that's the philosophy. That's his mindset, is how, while he's there, how many people he can empower and make better. That's why he started speaking to the Man Up program. This guy started it. His name is Anthony Benny Sutton. Anthony has been in there now for 39, almost 40 years. He's in there with his son. His son has done almost 15 years. And he started the Man Up program. He came up to me and he said, Andrew, he said, I never knew as a man how to show my emotions until Mr. Cosby started speaking to our program.
Wow.
He said, now all the men in our program, we're understanding that we don't have to, we're not punks if we be emotional. Because if we don't be emotional, that's how we have this anger on the inside and we end up fighting and hurting each other. Since Mr. Cosby has been in there, there have been no fights on his block. No fights. No stabbings, no violence on his block. They call him the Godfather. They call him Uncle Bill. And one guy just got out after doing, I think, almost 30-something years. He goes by the name Unique. He started the Man Up program on the outside now in Philadelphia. He said, man, if it wasn't for Bill Cosby, I got parole. He said, as soon as I got out, I made a commitment to him. I'm going to be a better father if I can, but I'm going back into my community and be a role model in my community. And he started the Man Up program on the outside.
Wow.
So when you talk about lost, stolen, or strayed, Mr. Cosby now, you know, he's bringing the lost, stolen, and strayed inside SCI Phoenix.
Yeah.
And what's so, you know, interesting is that in 1970, SCI Phoenix was a prison called Graterford. It was dangerous. It was like one of the worst prisons it was the worst prison in the state of Pennsylvania, the worst, just like Rikers in New York. Mr. Cosby did a documentary on that prison in 1970 and visited some of his friends. That same prison now that once was Graterford is called SCI Phoenix.
Mm.
So, you know, you never know where you're going to end up. This is a man who grew up in Richard Allen projects in North Philly. And if you go to North Philly, you will understand you wouldn't want to live in Philadelphia. You know, people who say, oh, I want to go to live in Philly. No, you want to live in the county. You don't want to live, because Philadelphia is surrounded by North Philly, South Philly, West Philly, the Bottoms, Kensington Beach. Kensington right next to, they call it Kensington Beach. It's not a beach. It's a place where the city of Philadelphia has made it legal where you could go drive through and you get to see people shoot drug needles in their arm, dead on the streets. And all the officers, police officers, walk right by them as they're shooting up with dope. And all they could do is give them is Narcan. That's all surrounded around North Philly, Philadelphia. That's how Bill Cosby grew up. So when he left and came back and he saw the drug infestation, he said, whoa, I left my people. I gotta bring something back to them. So he took the money that Hollywood gave him and said, you know what? I'm going to educate. Not only I'm going to educate, he opened up businesses. He had he invested into a barbershop. He invested into dessert shops for Black people, restaurants for Black people. He put the money out there. And those are the things that we have to do. Look, every city in America has a Black district. But it was once a thriving Black district. If you go in that Black district today, it's depressed, destruction.
Yep.
That's what we have to revive. That's what Mental Speak and urban intelligence is all about reviving our districts, our Black Wall Streets. We have them everywhere, and we have the abilities and the capabilities because of who we are and the strength that God gave us. We got it. We just got to use it and pull together and create our opportunities together, and for us, by us, not by us, not by them, and they give it to us.
Yeah. People have never read the Pound Cake speech in its entirety. I pulled up the transcript and I urge people, I'll actually share it, but I urge people to go read it because all they heard was what they felt was chastisement. When
Right.
in actuality, if you look back, it was a man saying, "What good is Brown versus the Board of Education if you don't take responsibility for it?" There comes
Right.
a point where you can only blame white supremacy so much. Yes, white supremacy exists,
Right.
but it's perpetuated when you don't take the opportunities that are available. He said we have to begin to build in the neighborhood, have restaurants, have cleaners, have pharmacies, have real estate, have medical buildings instead of trying to rob them all. Listen, he was saying there's a way, there's an order to this.
Right.
Yes, they may have taken from you, but guess what? There's another way. And you got to pull your pants up. You got to get this education. You got to speak right if you're going to enter into these institutions. And when, I just think, Andrew, we weren't ready to hear what the teacher was
Right.
speaking, the elder was speaking.
Yeah, America wasn't ready for that, and I asked him. I said, if you had an opportunity, what would you do that speech again? He said, I would do the speech again, but it would be with a different audience. He said, because Andrew, he said, it was with the wrong audience. He said, that's my only regret for the speech. He said, it wasn't the right audience. He said, because the Washington Post was able to take it and pick it apart. And they turned me into the Black person who looked down from his ivory tower on Black people. And he said that gave them an opportunity. Once they figured out how to turn my people against me, they took away my strength. They took away my support. And that's why you see Black people come out during the trials, both trials, and they were not out there supporting him because they were angry. But I tell everybody, if you go into prison and you see those inmates, they don't walk around now on the streets. They might walk around with their pants hanging down. In prison, they don't do that. They are neatly dressed. You would think they're in the military. That you see creases in their uniforms, their prison uniform. They look immaculate. They're well groomed. They don't dress that way on the outside. And that's what Bill Cosby was trying to get into the psyche of Black people. But as he stated, it was the wrong audience.
Yeah.
It wasn't for that audience.
It reminds me of what President Barack Obama said in his interview during the Breakfast Club, where he's been criticized for not being using his power enough for us specifically. And he came out and said that he pointed out that when he spoke out against the Trayvon Martin murder and spoke out against Henry Louis Gates being arrested in his own home, when he spoke out against that, his poll numbers tanked. Now we know his poll numbers, those weren't, the GOP didn't support him. Those poll numbers, the support was from the white liberals, our allies, and they didn't like him speaking on that. And when he was asked the question by Charlemagne, Obama said that now it's a little bit the atmosphere is more acceptable for straight words, especially since what happened to George Floyd earlier this year. So when you say that Mr. Cosby said it was the wrong audience, that kind of resonated with me because it seemed like as time go on, all of the stuff that we didn't want to believe, all the stuff that we were still doubting, no matter how many centuries of history we have, we're at the point where we have to just face the truth. And the truth, especially after that leak audio of Biden chastising these grown men and women, civil. These are leaders in the and he would never speak like that against the to the Jewish community. He would never speak like that to any other group, but he did that to us, and it just shows, you know, how America really feels about us.
Well, you know, look, our biggest issue is that we don't put mandates in place. You know, we don't
That part.
we don't we don't put any mandates in place. You know, they get to come to our community any way they want to. They get to come dress in a certain way, get to come talk in a certain way. When you come to the Jewish community, you got to come a certain way. You know, you got to come with a certain vocabulary, because there are certain things you cannot say because of who they are and their religion, you know, so in their faith. So, but you get to come to us any kind of way, you know, because all we are just we're collateral damage on so many levels. You know, there's nothing that you look at us and say, oh, well, they're not a proud people. Look, you go in any Jewish community, you don't see a liquor store on the corner. You don't see people hanging on the corner selling whatever. You go into the Muslim community, you don't see that on the corner. But you go into the Christian community, you see a church on every block, you see a liquor store on every block, you know, because that's how they look at us. They have devalued us before they even come and meet with us. Joe Biden had already devalued those civil rights leaders before he met with them. He devalued them back in the 80s when he looked at the civil rights bill and didn't really support it the way he wants to say he supported us. He has always devalued us. Obama, I feel, made the biggest mistake ever is trying not to be a black president. You know, you cannot. Unfortunately, he was surrounded by Jewish people. Axelrod, Rahm Emanuel, who's the brother of Ari Emanuel, William Morris, and the other Emanuel, Dr. Emanuel, wrote Obamacare. Obama got caught in the social scene, the socialite scene. You know, I always told everybody he was never going to go back to Chicago. He got a taste of what the East Coast social world was like. And they told him, look, you can't be the black man, although you are a black man. And I think he played down who he was, trying to be everything to everybody. And I get, you're the president of the United States. I'm not criticizing him for that, but we have to be careful, because I was telling someone in another interview, Obama made the biggest mistake with his new book coming out called Promised Land, where he talked about that him and Michelle was having problems, and you know, could possibly end up in a divorce and all those type of things, and marital problems. Well, who's going to take that message now? Because this is a black man, just like Bill Cosby. Bill Cosby had the opportunity to leave this earth unscathed, okay? Leave with his prominence, leave with his legacy not distorted in any way. Obama will be the first president in our history as we see it today that left the White House with no scandal, nothing negative on his image. Now, will they come back 15, 20 years from now and say, oh, he admitted marital problems, and bring a white woman out to say, by the way, I was having an affair with him, or an unwanted relationship, and he did this to me, and I was too afraid to come and say anything because he was so powerful and he could have destroyed me. Will he be the next Bill Cosby? You know, and that's what we have to look at. We have to be careful about how much of our lives we put out there.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, even when Michelle put it in her book, she talked about miscarriages. We have to be careful, because will they come back and distort her and say, oh no, she didn't have miscarriages, she had abortions. You know, because this is a first family that walked away from the White House. No president has walked away without a scandal under their legacy. And Obama was able to do it as a black man. So, you know, we have to always look at history and look at how Bill Cosby is one of the greatest history lessons I tell everybody. This is history. Everything that we're doing right now is history, okay? We will come back, if we're all around 20 years from now, and talk about this interview
Come on.
and Bill Cosby, right? Because we are going into the history books right now. So, will people look back and say, wow, we gotta always remember what took place with Bill Cosby, because
Yeah.
they're gonna come after us. We
Let me
got to be cognizant of that now.
And let me say this, Andrew, but the reason for me, and David and I always talk about this, for me, the reason when you can walk away unscathed is because you played ball. It's
Right.
because whatever was asked of you, you did it. And look, I'll be the first to say, I don't know what when a person takes an oath. I did it for the military. You take an oath and they tell you
Right.
go do this, you go do that, right? Because you've been conditioned to do it, and you don't know what cost that person has been, offered. I'm gonna make you an offer that you can't refuse in a lot of cases, at that level. So it just seems to me that you walk away when you've done everything that you're supposed to do. Bill Cosby did not play ball. I imagine the mandate was you will not tell Black people who they are and what they're supposed to do and who they could be and where they came from, because we wrote the script on history. Now, who you think you are coming in here, and you want to buy NBC at that so you could tell it all? No,
Well, look,
brother.
let me. I'm glad you mentioned that, because Mr. Cosby, keep in mind, Nixon put him on the Nixon's enemy list as a communist when he didn't perform at the White House. Okay, so you mean to tell me a guy whose shows were canceled, his entertainment life was disrupted, just wasn't in jail, then in prison. FBI is watching him. He's running around drugging white women, and he was on Nixon's enemies list being watched by the FBI. Think about it now. You got to think about it. But I'm going to tell you, since you mentioned NBC, when Bill Cosby tried to buy NBC, the way they justified not letting him buy the station is by giving Magic Johnson a channel, Comcast, Aspire channel, and they gave Diddy a channel. That was the first thing. But when Mr. Cosby got up from the meeting and he saw that they were giving him a hard time and he had the money, because at the time he was trying to buy not only NBC, at the same time he was trying to buy the Cleveland Browns, because he was drafted to play football for the Cleveland Browns. And he decided not to go that route. So he walks over to the president, the head of NBC, Jewish guy, and he saw how the guy railroaded him from getting the station. And in front of everybody, he called Zucker, who is now the president of CNN. He called him a Nazi. That's what he called this Jewish man. And that Zucker vowed, he said, as long as I live, I will come after you. And look who paraded the women out against him, CNN.
CNN, come on with it. Listen, I tell people, and since this is a historical show, I talked about it last Sunday on our show. I have master's level, and my undergrad are in sociology, social psychology. So people don't realize you go to university, they give you the whole layout.
Right.
To the present, they tell you everything. And if you're wise enough and you go in and you're conscious, you could put the pieces together. So I go in and I'm thinking, sociology, I'm gonna study human psychology and behavior and all that stuff. No, they showed you the whole setup. And what they told us is that after World War II, Operation Paperclip, I'm sure you're familiar, they brought Nazi scientists to North and South America and brought them into every institution, right? Medical, educational, news and radio. Television and radio. So here's the question I pose to the public. I say, at what point, after bringing those Nazi scientists into our institutions, when did those Nazi scientists leave?
They never left.
When did they stop instituting? Right?
You
hit that question for me.
They never left, and what we have to look at what's happening to Bill Cosby and so many Black men in America and women who are losing their lives, to these, bad police officers. Not all. We have to understand that this is the Holocaust tactic.
Come on.
That's what it is.
Gestapo.
Yeah. It's the tactic. They know what happened to them. Look, one thing about the Jewish person, they teach the Holocaust. It's generational, and their children learn those tactics. They know how to take us down. They have all of the avenues. They know how to what our acquired tastes are as a people, not just food wise, but women wise, materialistic thing wise. They begin to understand us, and they offer us those things. And once we bite the apple, we're on the hook because they keep receipts. And when they keep the receipts, look, they could produce those receipts 20, 30, 40 years from now. They don't have to have any evidence or proof that you did something. They just have the sheer volume that it happened. And they know how to, of numbers of people who could join their bandwagon. And that's what we have to fight back. I remember, I come up with all of these strategies because I bring on the legal team and all of the investigators, and that's my role. And my job is to create the strategy and come up with different ideas of how to fight and how to keep his legacy valid, how to keep it, how to do the restoration process of his legacy. And I told everybody, so one thing that I remember trying to do, and a number of attorneys stopped me, but it would have worked. I said, well, okay, while Gloria already is parading women out, we're going to parade Black women out, with Bill Cosby and talk about how great he is, and he never did those things. But the problem is when you got the Jewish people as your attorneys,
Yep.
they know how to strike down the strategy because they got your ear, they got your mind.
Yep.
And they had his ear and mind. Because when you're a celebrity and you're an entertainer, you just want to get back to that stage. You understand as a comedian,
Yep.
LaTanya, how that stage it means a lot to you. That's your solace. That's your place of refuge.
Therapy.
The stage.
Yeah.
And it's that microphone for you and David. It means the world to you guys because you get to empower the minds. I always said the media has the juice, right? The media has the juice to do to influence you, to educate you. They also have the juice to make you hate. So and make you do some crazy stuff. So when you have that type of power over a person and influence, when a person wants to get back to work, they listen. And Mr. Cosby listened. And unfortunately, we went through some gray areas. But right now, as I tell everybody, look, they got what they want, but they got what they wanted, but they gave us what we needed. And
Ooh, got what
They buried him, but they didn't know he was a seed, huh?
Ooh.
Right. They didn't know he was a seed. They didn't know he was going to grow. And one thing about it, you cannot destroy the root.
You can't.
The root is far greater than the seed.
And time again, they attempt to taint the script, but in trying to taint the script, that's the infinite power of God, right? Isn't it?
Right.
Every time you seek to destroy something, you end up planting the seed. And I find it so ironic that he's in the correctional institution called, right?
Yeah. Phoenix.
Rise again. And
when you walk in, LaTanya, there's a phoenix rising from the ashes. As soon as you walk in, a mural of a phoenix rising from the ashes. The minute you walk into that door, that's what you see.
Yeah. Professor Griff says that all that a Black man or woman has ever asked on this plantation, which is what we refer to as the plantation, is that it follow its own laws. With this Supreme Court, as we bring this home, where it sounds like what is being asked is for this court to follow the law.
Follow the law.
What are they going to have to do to make this right?
And you know what? What office can Mr. Cosby, go back and get his respect? And the office is the court of public opinion, and they could give him his respect back. And that's the road to vindication. They can rule and write their opinions that he had immunity. If they don't give us that, we said warrant him a new trial, minus the 404B in the deposition. And but we are getting the respect back. Look, your show, there's no platform out here. You and so many others But since I'm on your show, I'm only going to talk about your show. I'm not going to mention any other show. But you and so many others out here, they'll put it out the truth and the facts. We've never asked, and I've never asked for special favors or privileges. I've never said, hey, let's not talk about this. Let's not talk about that. What I've said to you is, I'll love to come on your show. I'd love to be a part of your show. And my goal right now, Latanya and David, while I'm out here, while I'm however long I'm going to be given this opportunity to restore our people, I want to bring shows like this to the prominence. I want to use my influence, and it's not as great as a Bill Cosby, but use my platform to bring people to your show, bring dollars to your show, to make it 10, 15 years from now, syndicated show where it's all over the world. And so that's the goal. That's why I'm taking the opportunity to do shows like this. I like these shows better than the mainstream media shows, because this is the show that's the grassroots show. It has the grassroots effort. And we are grassroots people. And we are people who have the ability to, with the strength and the knowledge, to take us to a level that we've never seen or experienced. And we can do that. So that's why I enjoy this show and enjoy doing this show.
We appreciate you. And that's for us all. It's never been, I've actually had to have people tell me to go other places with it, because, right, David? Because all I'm about, no, we just got to tell the truth. Like, I don't care about anything else. I'm like, we just got to tell the truth. People are like, no, we can build our platform, and we can, get our resources through the platform. But Latanya is always like, no, I don't care about none of that. I just want to tell the truth. And so I hope that we impart that to people, that it's only about our history and telling the truth. This is our salvation. This is our salvation. The truth is everything for us. And like you, Andrew, as long as I'm breathing, that's all I'm going to do. I want to read this. I just kind of summed it up. We summed this up together to let Mr. Cosby know that we appreciate him, and in asking, please forgive us. This is our apology for rejecting your call to accept our responsibility in restoration of our community. Our apology. Forgive us for not heeding the words of our elder, who saw the landscape of this plantation farther and deeper than we understood, for our mockery and abandonment on the side of the oppressor, for ignoring when you told us our history had been lost, stolen, and strayed, for our ignorance that after slavery, America continued to break up the Black man's family. For your effort, we thank you, that you made it your mission to provide us with images to repair the fractured Black family, for unapologetically reminding us that Black was beautiful, for setting the standard that education was salvation, for opportunities, finance, foundation, beneficence. We hear you now. So we just want to send that message to him.
Wow, that's beautiful.
Thank
wow,
you.
that's
Thank you
beautiful.
so much.
Would you please get me a copy of that? And
I will.
give me a signed copy of it.
Yeah.
I would love to present it to Mrs. Cosby, but I would love also get me 2 signed copies so she can sign it and send one back to you.
Thank you. Thank you. And you're a blessing. We're grateful for your sacrifice as a Black man, because I know, your time and your effort, your energy, all the darts and bullets that you take verbally. Yeah. We're just grateful for you. David, what you
say?
got?
I wanted to give shout out to Nicole's View, because a lot of the work that we saw that she has done, we saw it, and it helped guide us on this particular issue. And so I want to give her a shout out. I also want to ask you, I saw the minister speak on Bill Cosby, and there was an image of Bill leaning over and kind of having a private whisper with the minister, and the minister told him to be strong. I see those two and others like Dr. Claude Anderson putting 60 plus years of work in towards restoring the black family, the black community. And in that excerpt, I saw that uh, Mr. Cosby had spoke on how the black Muslims represent the community well. Is there any contact between he and those who may be inside with him? Do they offer any protection? It sounds like he really don't need any. It sounds like they have a great deal of respect for him and all of that. But is there anything that you could add on that?
Well, I definitely can. Minister Farrakhan and Mr. Cosby are great friends. Minister Farrakhan, so people could know, Kenny Gamble and Leon Huff, who created Philadelphia Sound. Kenny Gamble is Muslim. He came to Mr. Cosby doing the Million Man March, and Mr. Cosby financed all the buses for the Million Man March for Minister Farrakhan. Minister Farrakhan, we were at Dick Gregory's funeral. The picture you're talking, I walked Mr. Cosby over at Dick Gregory's funeral, and his pilots were about to time out, so him and Mrs. Cosby needed to get back to their plane. And we didn't want the pilots to time out, but he could not leave without talking to Miss Lillian Gregory and talking to the Minister Farrakhan. So I walked him over, and the minister kissed him on the cheek, and he told him, "I'm forever with you." Then the minister, through the efforts of Mark Stevens, Mark is Shaquille O'Neal's one of Shaq's agents. Mark represents Minister Farrakhan, Shaquille O'Neal, Stephen A. Smith, you name it. The minister summons me to his home last year. It's the great Elijah Muhammad's home in Chicago. It's right in the back of Obama's home. And I don't mind seeing you guys pictures, but I spent 4 hours with the minister, sat at his right hand, and he let me record the entire thing on video. His conversation and his words to Mr. and Mrs. Cosby, and we put it on a DVD. And he said, "Andrew, I have already talked to the Muslims in the prison, and he is protected forever." And as Muslims protected him on every level at the prison. When I come into Philadelphia, even because I get so many death threats wherever I travel. So wherever I travel, the Muslims call me through the aid of Minister Farrakhan. And they say, "Hey, Andrew," they know when I land. I don't even tell them my schedule. And they know my every move. And the minister has tentacles all over to protect Mr. Cosby. He said, "I don't want a dime from him." He said, "Because what Brother Bill has done for us and done for this world, I'll never forget it, and what he has done for me."
And it's just that simple.
Salute.
It's just that
Man.
simple. If you are listening to the show, all you got to know, and anything anyone has ever said to me when I question someone's character, and not just their personal character, I'm talking about the public character. It comes down to, did they tell you the truth about yourself?
Mm-hmm.
Did they lie to you about who you are? Or did they tell you the truth about who you are? And that is the only measurement. That's the litmus test. Are they going to lie to you about your history and where you stand in that history? Are they going to lift you up in the truth of who you are? And that is how I measured Bill Cosby, period. I don't need to know personal details.
Mm-hmm.
That's for him and God.
Right.
You told me the truth about who I am. You opened my eyes, and you were leading us to salvation. That's it.
Look, and that's our role. It's our responsibility to lead people to that land of milk and honey. And the only way we're going to get there is as a people. God is watching. He wants to see how we react and treat each other as a people. We're on a strange land right now. That's why things can't go right for us. But we have an opportunity, right, to come together and work together. Look, people call me crazy. They said, "Well, look, you're into this situation. What's next?" And I tell them, I said, crazy people are those people who have the inability to admit that they're crazy. Those are crazy people. When
Come
you
on.
can't admit that we all have a little craziness to
Come
us,
on.
but when you can't admit that you have a little craziness,
That's
that's when
insanity.
you're crazy. I'm not. So I have the ability to admit, yeah, I'm crazy, and that's why I'm going to stay in this fight, because I'm crazy for our people. And I'm
Come on.
crazy being black. I love being who I am. I love our sisters, our black women. You know, we got a multitude of colors. We don't have to go outside of anything to search for anything. If we want light complexion, dark brown, whatever, we got it. And that's what makes us so powerful as a people, because we're a multitude and a facet of so many things. We're good. You know, we're hands-on learners. You could give a black man, show him a job one time, or a black woman, they're going to get it done because we're hands-on learners. That's why in these school systems, how they defeat us, they know we're hands-on learners, so they don't give us the hand-on attention. And that's what we have to get back to, us being hands-on people. We have to be hands-on with each other, and we have to be able to check each other
Yes.
without having to say, oh, that brother's coming from me or that sister's coming from me, I got to pull out a gun or a knife. No, we need to be able to check each other. And I want people to check me. I don't care if you're a media personality. Hey, if you don't like something I say, check me, because I don't have all of the answers. And that's what makes me great at what I do and gives me the ability of what I do. And that's why I have a firm called Purpose PR, crisis management firm, because when people use the word purpose, they're saying the name God, because he is our purpose.
Oh, I love it. And I want to throw out to Black family that word forgiveness or acceptance of the deeds done by those. You're so quick to forgive white people for their racism and hatred towards us. You need to bring that forgiveness home. You need to bring it back to your own. You need to give it back to those who have toiled on your behalf to restore you. Andrew, thank you. You know, forever you call us, you got it. We're here.
Same here.
You already know. You already
Same.
know.
And let's work on. David mentioned Nicole. I got to say, she's an amazing person. She
Yes.
came to that trial every day.
Oh,
That second trial, she was there every day when she lived in Philly. Every day. Didn't have a show and left that trial and started a show.
bless her.
And not only started a show, a part of a support group that raised money for people to come to oral arguments last year with the Superior Court, helped raise money to get a billboard put up, you know. And I just want to thank her and all of these grassroots supporters who have been out here. Thank you so much for that beautiful note that you read, Latanya and David. Thank you. And whatever I could do for you guys supporting your show, let me know. I will do my best to try and help and aid, because that's our mission in life. We have to be missionaries for Black people, not missionaries to destroy Black people, because that's what white people want. So thank you so much.
Thank you. And send our love to Mrs. Cosby, Mr. Cosby, and we'll be in touch.
Let's be in touch, and let's work on trying to get Mrs. Cosby on a show with you, Nicole, and Black women. Just
come on,
getting it.
2021,
So
we're going to
let's
get
work
it.
on it for 2021. We
Thank
want to
you,
make that happen. Okay.
Bless you.
Salute.
Thank you. Salute.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Y'all enjoy y'all day.
Bye-bye. And that concludes our show for today. I hope that you guys were enlightened. I hope that you learned something that you never heard before. I hope that you took on a new perspective that you never had before. I hope that you see beyond the mainstream media illusions of who we are, and you understand the setup. You understand the traps. You understand that we're in Oz, right? And the courage, the heart, the brain that we need is within us. I say it all the time. It's all within you, Dorothy. You didn't need the wizards to give you all the things that you need. Okay, it's a setup. If they offer it to you, come on home to your people, to your family, to your tribe. We got you, and we wanted to lay out this legacy that mainstream media wasn't going to tell you. They're not going to tell you the other side. They're not going to tell you why they hem somebody up. We will. What you got, David?
Man, I'm just kind of like kind of blown away. I'm glad I asked some of those questions. I wasn't really sure. Because I heard some things, like I heard that there was a Cosby production, a media production. I'm glad I got clarification on that. I'm glad I got clarification on the fact that there was a Miss Jackson who was told by Andrea Constant that she was lying. Okay. I'm glad that, Mr. Wyatt confirmed that there was a relationship, and I'm going to go a little low just for a little bit. She was a side piece. She was a side piece.
She was my
that
side
she was a
piece.
side piece that he cut off and clearly became vindictive. Clearly. Okay. Say what you want about, the negativity or Mr. Cosby not being perfect in that regard doesn't justify a man being lied on, doesn't justify a man being thrown in prison in the twilight of his life, doesn't justify a man's legacy that he represented us perfectly for over 60 years. And I'm really upset at how ignorant we are and how so easily manipulated we are. And the only thing that gives me comfort is when I read those scriptures. Say what you want about religion, okay? It's been misrepresented to you. It's on you for not understanding, okay? These are constant themes over and over again. No matter if you pick up the Torah, the Bible, or the Quran, these themes are constant. So then look at the themes and then look at today, and then you'll know exactly what the hell is going on. So when I find comfort in the fact that this is all written,
script.
This is we know that we know what happens, and we face the punishment right along with America for being ignorant. So I'm glad that a lot of things got cleared up, and including the minister's role in helping and protecting, America's dad, Black America's dad.
Yeah. Now let's make the sacrifice count. Okay. He sacrificed his life. It's our turn. Step up. Don't take the vaccine. All right. You guys are a blessing to us, Mental Speak family. We thank you so much for tuning in. We will be back next Sunday. Thank you again to Andrew Wyatt, spokesperson, publicist for Mr. Bill Cosby. We will be back. Universe Wills will be here with you. You guys do tune in. FBRN.us, live from Studio A. We will see ya. What are we going to do? Let's do this. All right. You guys take care. Thank you, guys.